Welcome to Unwinding with Support Group, a mental health podcast by licensed professionals where we discuss mental health topics from a real-world perspective, all while having a drink. So hang out, have some laughs, enjoy the ride, and maybe learn a bit. With Support Group, I'm Arlene. I'm an LPC. We have a special episode this week with the podcast-a-thon coming out to highlight nonprofits. We selected a local nonprofit in the mental health space to help elevate their cause. But before we get to that, as usual, tell you what I'm drinking. But in lieu of what we're gonna the nonprofit, I have water. So Alex would be proud that I'm drinking water today. But with me today is Kelsey Hector. She's the executive director of Punks with Lunch in Lansing. So I appreciate you being here, Kelsey.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. We're excited to talk about what we do. So
Awesome. So with that in mind, that's actually what I'd like. Tell us a little bit about what Punks with Lunch is.
absolutely. So we're a harm reduction organization. We are in 3 counties. We're in Ingham, Shiawassee, and Eaton County, and we show up with survival supplies. So anything from food to clean needles. We help people in active substance use. We go to encampments and support folks. We're kind of like a connector group as well. I make jokes about, in the old days when you would call the telephone and you have the person that would plug you into where you need to go. That's kind of what we do, but we also give you some love and care before we send you off to the next place. So we like to connect people with different resources in our community and make sure that, on the foundation of everything, we love to create relationships with folks, especially, our marginalized group of folks who often are not seen through kind eyes. We kind of show up with love and appreciation for their existence, and we like to provide supplies to make sure that they can stay alive to the next day, because at the end of the day, I'm not here to tell people what to do. I'm just here to make sure that, if you do fall, at least there's a little soft landing.
Awesome. How did Punks with Lunch get started?
So back in 2017, we had 2 co-founders who had started handing out food to the community, and one of them saw the movement from California, actually. So the original group of Punks with Lunch is a group out of Oakland, California. They decided that, they saw this need and they filled it in their community. And that's exactly kind of what happened here. And so we kind of took the name as our own, just like other chapters of Punks with Lunch have popped up everywhere. None of us are really connected in a sense of like your traditional nonprofit structure or whatever, but we all very much carry the same DIY, show up with care and love kind of ethics and harm reduction lens to make sure that all of our neighbors are taken care of. And I think that that's pretty special. And then from there we grew, right? So we started just doing like every other Saturday distributions and some other things during the week here and there. But then in 2021, we actually became an official nonprofit and started getting funding to be able to do harm reduction on a larger scale to make sure that our folks who are in active substance use are being met with the care that they need. And we've seen some pretty incredible things from the state of Michigan because of the work that we do. Things like decrease in HIV, decrease in overdose, and just all around increase in access to recovery services, and also to just, oftentimes we're some of the only people that show up to our folks in the encampments. And so, especially in our rural counties where our people are more kind of secluded. So we just continue to get a little bit bigger and keep building up. It's an unfortunate thing that we're needed, but we're really privileged and really just love the work that we do. So
I agree with you. It is an unfortunate thing that you are needed, but amazing that you guys are here. How did you get involved?
So I got involved back in 2020, I think, 2020 or 2021. And we had just moved back to the area. So I'm actually from Eaton Rapids. I was born and raised there. I moved around a little bit, and I finally decided that I was going to come back to to Lansing from Grand Rapids. And we wanted to find something to do to replace the kind of stuff that we were doing in Grand Rapids. And so I found Punks with Lunch. We just showed up one Saturday and just started volunteering. We quickly fell in love with the organization and everything it was about. And then it connected us to other organizations too. So like the Fledge that's here in Lansing. I've done some work with like the Youth Entrepreneur Program there because I used to be a teacher. And I really love the spirit of what mutual aid can be and how we can show up for folks in different ways. And so that kind of, fast forward, I got a job here December of 24, and I am now the executive director, and we've we've been doing some great things. We've expanded a lot of our services. We're now in Eaton County, which is exciting because that's where I was born and raised, and I know the need there is like very, very high, right? And so, yeah.
That is exciting. Do you know about roughly how much the Punks with Lunch help? How many people about a month? How much people you have about a month or a year?
Yeah, I mean, we see a couple hundred people a month,
Mhm.
right? I mean, encampments alone, we probably see a good 100 through the three counties. And summer that will increase, right? So we
Oh,
see a
yeah,
lot
for
more
sure.
people in the summer than we do in the winter. And then our participants, I mean, so I would assume like 300 or something a month. That will fluctuate here and there, especially because we also do a lot of trainings and stuff. And so not only is our mission to like help, help our neighbors, but also to destigmatize, substance use and to destigmatize, even overdoses and like what that means, or to carry Narcan and what that means and how to be prepared to carry Narcan. And so we often do a lot of trainings for like colleges and sororities, different community groups. And so we make a lot of relationship connections all throughout the community through different areas, every single month.
Oh, that's awesome that you guys do trainings for that because that is definitely something that I think more people need to have an understanding because that stigma is real.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think that there's very many people in this world that haven't been touched by substance use in some sort of way.
Yeah.
And so just talking about it and kind of breaking down those barriers, I think is really important. And not only helped like me, right, to like, kind of break down my trauma and what lens I was viewing things through, but to help other people do that too. And then to even have participants come and volunteer with us as well just to have a little bit, more purpose through relationship, I think is probably the most important thing that we actually do. I may not get all the credit, but I think that's
Yeah,
the most
that's
important.
awesome. What is the goal for Punks with Lunch? What is your overall arcing goal?
Yeah. In a perfect world, we would have zero overdoses. We would decriminalize some of our really hardcore, drug offenses, and we would walk through our society with a care-centered model instead of a punitive-centered model. I think that the reality of existence, human existence, is that drugs have always existed. They will never go away. And the more that we criminalize and make people just drown in their own shame and guilt, the worse off that we're going to be. And that's kind of like why we're in this present moment of now, right? We can look at all the data, we can look at, our history and kind of understand how we got here. And so like the perfect reality is that all of our unhoused neighbors would be housed, all of our people in active substance use would decrease the risk, or if they wanted to go to treatment, they would find a soft place to land instead of a punitive one. And then we would really have a different societal lens to look through when we're talking about things like substance use, when we're talking about things like, our unhoused neighbors, and trying to figure out how to make more permanent relational connections with folks. I think at the end of the day, mutual aid governs all, and it connects us all. And so we can all kind of benefit from systems like this. So that's like in a perfect world, that would be what I would wish for.
I like it because I was like, one of the big things I was, what's the pie in the sky kind of dream, and
Yeah.
I think that's important to be able to like, are we ever going to live in a perfect world? No, but I think it's good, like, what would that look like for you? So that's cool.
Right? And it's good to have dreams because if you don't know where we're going, I'd rather be realistically delusional than just depressed all the time. So I try
Okay,
to.
I like it. What barriers do you often see from your participants who come to seek assistance?
Number one is housing. And I think that that's really evident across the board, across the United States, right? We are really in an emergency situation across the board when it comes to affordable housing, and making sure that we have enough safety or like social safety nets to be able to catch people when they fall. Because what we see is this compounded intersection of mental health and substance use and poverty and what we do is we stack on criminalization on top of that, and we see all these things happening where it just compounds and makes the issue so much worse than it currently is. Um, and I want to back up because now can you repeat the question again?
Barriers.
Barriers. Okay, yes. Um, and I think with that, there's a few things that stick out besides housing, and that's really is the stigma piece and how we look at our neighbors, whether they're unhoused, whether they're not, how we look at ourselves. I think that's a conversation that doesn't come up enough, is that I have a lot of folks that come through these doors who don't have a sense of self and they don't have even a sense of this, loving themselves. And that compounds and makes things worse too, because then they go out in the world and then we're telling them that that image that they have of themselves is true, and it's not, right? Everyone has inherent worth and dignity. And so stigma is a huge piece. And I think it's one of the easiest and hardest pieces that we can kind of attack or like go after, because it does just take some relational working and some, sometimes education. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to relationship building when people start to see, could be my sister, this could be my brother, this could be, my child, this could be me. And then too, just, from a systems point of view, we really are not set up in a system that is able to work on a care-centered model. And so oftentimes we butt up against like the legal system, we butt up against like criminalization of homelessness. We have a lot of our folks that get swept from their camps, and that's a really dangerous thing to do because our folks lose vital documents. Those folks, if they have mental health issues, that exacerbates that to the extreme. Now, all of a sudden, they're re traumatized, they're put into more of survival mode. And then we have some of the more, bigger behaviors that could happen with traumatizing events like that. And so all of these compounded things are kind of working against exactly what we're trying to do here. But I will say I do think that there's hope. We have a lot of community partners and a lot of people that have been willing to be like, you know what, maybe I was wrong about this whole thing, and I'd be willing to at least sit down. I don't have to agree with you, but I'd be willing to at least sit down and hear what you have to say, because what's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah, for sure. Mm. Again, from like your pie in the sky type of thing, what do you feel like we could do to address like these barriers, either
So
systemically or individually?
I think individually that's going to be your easiest starting point, right? So, like putting yourself in rooms with people that you may not usually be around, right? Like, come to one of our events. Come to one of our events, come volunteer with us and hang out with some of our participants. They're pretty sweet. They'll teach you a lot of things, and you'll learn a lot of things, and you'll start to humanize this kind of antagonist that, media and other sources are making them out to be, when really they're not, right? We're not the sum of our choices. And so I always push that. Also get a training with us. If you want us to come in and have hard conversations, that's my favorite thing to do. I love to be in the uncomfortable. And so even if you don't totally agree with our mission, having us come in and just be willing to sit down and have a conversation and maybe do a Narcan training is always really beautiful. As far as systemic things, I think it's really hard because we really come from like a punitive, pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality. And in reality, oftentimes because of systemic barriers, that doesn't necessarily work, or you're just not seeing, you're thinking someone's not putting in the effort, but in reality, they have been. You're just not listening to them. And so a lot of times, like what I wish is that we could have, housing where people in active substance use who are unhoused can go to try and stabilize and lessen the risk in their lives. Because that's often a huge group of people that kind of get chucked out, where it's like you have to be sober to enter here. You have to be sober to come to this meeting. You have to access this program. You have to be sober. And it's like, okay, but what if that's not the reality? What if that's not possible with someone? What if someone is self-medicating? What if someone has extreme trauma and they're not ready to make that step yet? And if we force them into there, it may send them into a back spiral that actually increases the risky behavior and can lead to some unfortunate things like overdose or some other behavioral things. But that's our future hope, is to have housing that's more accessible to our folks. Um, and I think at the end of the day, like I said, just kind of breaking down the stigma and just showing up for our neighbors. Because at the end of the day, that's what we got. We got each other.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I think one of the things you mentioned, homeless encampment and sweeps.
Yeah.
And I don't think people really recognize how like damaging that is, of like the losing your like important documents, and the methods you then have to go back to getting them if you lose your social security card, your birth certificate, and your like ID. Like you
Yeah.
need those things to get the other things.
Yes.
Like, and if you don't have all three, then the problematic of the system of getting them and the runaround, um, like that in itself is a tremendous issue.
Yeah.
And you can only
Absolutely.
get your social security card so many times issued.
Yep.
And I don't think people realize that either.
No, I don't think people like, so we work with some other organizations, and we have people that are working with other folks who have been waiting for like a year for their vital documents. They may be from out of state, they may be
Mhm.
adopted. Okay, maybe
Yeah.
they're adopted and they don't have their original birth certificate and they can't figure out where to find it, right? Or there's so many of these things, and even in the best case scenario, it's still it's going to take you a few weeks to get all those items together, and you still need to work with an agency in order to help you through that process. Because if you don't have money, if you don't have the 25 bucks it takes to go get an ID, you're going to have to work with an agency. And so there's all these steps that people don't realize. And then in order for you to get on programs to help you get housed, you have to have your vital documents.
Yep. And I
It's
I
a
think one
trap.
of the yeah, it's like such a cycle. The other
Yeah.
thing, like I think what always is amazing to me is like, and people are just tell this idea of like just go get a job when you're unhoused.
Yeah.
But one of the primary things you need on an application is an address.
Yes. Well, and two, if you're in an encampment and haven't showered in 2 weeks, would you like to go into a place and have an interview? Like I
No.
haven't showered I don't shower for a few days and I'm just like, oh no, this is a problem. But imagine not having access to a shower for like 2+ weeks.
Right. And then you're gonna feel good about an interview. Like that's just not
Yeah.
gonna like there's
That's why
that,
we
like,
we are excited. We
yeah.
did get money for a mobile shower and laundry bus. Um,
Nice.
yes, we do. We're trying to get a little bit more funding to make sure that we can finish the whole thing, but we're on the way there, because that is something that I think about quite frequently, is like we often take advantage of the very basic needs that are met by just being in a home.
Yeah, right. Running water is a
Yeah,
huge thing. But no, these are things like when they get brought up, I'm like it's the small things that if you are housed and employed that you don't actually necessarily always think of,
yeah,
that come with not having stable housing and or access to things that are as ongoing barrier.
yeah. I mean, we have folks that like they're camping by the river, and then we have a strong rain. So not only are they up all night because of the moisture and whatever, but all of a sudden it floods the floodplain,
Yep.
it rises a little bit. And so all of a sudden we have tents that are soggy, the person is soggy, all their stuff is soggy. And then it's like, and then here, 1, 2, 3, here comes the police to sweep the river trail. And
Yeah.
it's like all these things compounded. Sometimes I wish people could just sit and like, you know how you do like the meditative exercises, and like I will just be there like, we're gonna do a meditative exercise, except we're gonna go through what it would be like to live outside for a week and like put in some of these real life situations that happens for people to visualize the reality of how that would feel in their body as well as physically and like emotionally. Like, would you, you
Mhm.
know, what would you do? And if you didn't do any substances, we have folks that like they started doing it a couple years ago, and just so happens it coincides with them being unhoused. And so there's a lot of these things that get connected because how do we emotionally and physically deal with such severe trauma?
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, but if I'm depressed or if I'm having some issues, I'm going to go to my doctor and I'm going to get prescribed a medication to help me, right? So that I can go through the day to day. And if you don't have access to those resources, or your trauma is so compounded and so overwhelming that you can't go that route, what do you do?
Well, you access what is available,
Exactly.
and what is available is a substance
Yeah.
because it's there.
Yeah. And oftentimes that can be more harmful. You know, we talk a lot about drug testing, and we have a lot of drug testing supplies because, you know, the same, it's not the same environment that it was in the 80s. Okay.
No.
We have a very, very, very different drug supply. Most of the stuff out here, like heroin, doesn't really, it exists, but it, it's not here. It's all mixed with like fentanyl, it's mixed
Yep.
with medetomidine, it's mixed with xylazine, all of these manufactured drugs that were made in a facility. And it makes it that much more dangerous because all of a sudden, if you have someone who is maybe used for a long time and then, you know, or maybe is has been in recovery and something happens and then they relapse and they try to go back to what they did before, not realizing that the whole system has changed and it's much more dangerous. The risk is far exceeding what it used to be, and that's why we see, you know, the overdose rate as it was previously. I mean, I do have some pretty interesting numbers too, if you have a sec to
Yeah,
share with
of
you.
course.
If it loads. So a lot of our data either comes from surveys from our participants or it comes from other places throughout the United States. And what we look at is we look at the overdose rates. And for Michigan alone, seen a huge decrease. So, you know, Michigan reported cases of overdose deaths. So this is people who have died. This is not people who have survived an overdose. And also to understanding that these numbers are not going to always be 100% accurate because a lot of times when we have an overdose death, sometimes it can be in conjunction with something else. And so sometimes, data's weird. We always have to
Yeah.
understand that it's not perfect. But in May 2023, we had 3,076 people die from an overdose in Michigan. And then fast forward to April 2025, and we have 1,740 people who have died from overdoses in Michigan. And and we got our funding in 2021. We had a huge, massive push for Narcan all across the state of Michigan.
Mhm.
And I think in conjunction with like the SSPs and the Narcan distribution, this is really the reason that these numbers are coming down. We've been giving people the opportunity to have their healthcare in their own hands because they don't have reliable or non-trauma inducing access to healthcare through the system. Um, Also, too, there's a lot of misinterpretation about heroin. So most of the people that we see that go to heroin or these other, synthetic opioids often come from a place of they used to get a prescription, right? So we
Uh-huh.
have a long history of overprescribing, and
Yep.
then only in like what 2016 we had regulations come down,
Uh-huh.
and the few years before that, we did see doctors stop writing them as much as they did, but we still see the numbers skyrocket. So this is a little bit of a data nerd, but this is what I push people. If you're interested in understanding the why, you have to look at the numbers and you have to look at the history because it is much bigger than you think it is than just stop, you know?
Oh, if it was that easy.
Yes, yes,
That's always like it's like when somebody's anxious and someone's like, just calm down.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, okay.
calm down. It's
I'm
fine.
calm. I'm calm now.
Or don't think about it. If I'd only thought
Yeah.
about that.
Now I'm thinking about it more because you told me not to think about it.
Right. Like these things, if they were that simple,
Right?
that's just not how it works, unfortunately. But no, I think that you're right. Like it used to be a couple years ago, like it was all the time. The news here was overdose, overdose, overdose. And now it's a lot more rare.
Yeah. Which is beautiful. It's
It
not to
is.
zero, that's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
That's our end goal is to be at zero. But we're headed in the right direction. And so I hope that, especially as we're like changing governors here, I really
Mhm.
hope the trajectory in which we have been taking this continues because the data doesn't lie.
No, it sure does. Sure, that it doesn't. You're right. There's like a lot of things in there, but that is a massive decrease, and that is huge in just a few years.
Yeah. And like realistically, if we want to do the best in something, we could be the best in, coming at substance use disorder and coming at overdoses in a way that, changes how we've done it before and really be like the light in the dark per se.
Yeah.
But
No, I think you're right. I think people forget about how people transition from prescribed opiates and
yeah,
then how that just got cut off like a decade ago.
yeah,
Just got cut off. Like pretty much like I'm not prescribing this anymore and left
yep.
people in the lurch with like they were addicted. They
Yeah,
were,
it was too late at that point.
yeah.
Their brain chemistry had already shifted to be reliant on this substance. And so, and also too, another thing that I think that we need to think about is how we look at pain, right? Like as a society, for a
Yeah.
long time we looked at pain through a certain lens, especially with different marginalized groups where like your pain threshold was different than other groups, right?
Yep.
And there's just so many things going on here. And I think that before we can pass judgment, we have to pause and just kind of take in. And I think people have a really hard time taking apart accountability of behavior and the reasoning for said behavior. We're not ever taking away accountability from our people because we want them to have autonomy over their body and choices. And that means when we have big behaviors and we have things that happen that are uncalled for, we're going to be held accountable for that. That's what we're here for. We're in right relationship with our people, just like we are with our family and friends. And I expect the same from them because I love them just as much as my people at home, right? But I can also understand and empathize with what got them there to begin with and try to use that framework to have a conversation through their eyes instead of my judgment.
Yeah, it's the two things can be true at once, right?
Yes.
I can totally understand and empathize. And you're right, like, dude, that's still fucked up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, dude,
Yeah.
still can't do that.
Yeah. That's fucked up. And also, absolutely not, friend. You are not going to treat me like this. No, thank you.
Exactly. No, we don't do that. We just don't be doing that. I get why you're doing it. Still, we just don't do that.
Yep.
Like, no, two things can be true at once, and I think you're right. People have a hard time with like, I get it, and it's still not okay.
Yes. Name the harm and also understand that at the end of the day, we're all still people. I've done
Yeah.
fucked up shit. I've done stuff. I'm sure I'm the villain in multiple people's stories. That's fine. I take
Same.
accountability for my bullshit, you
Correct.
know?
Same, right? Like, I don't think any of us are perfect. And being able to say, okay, like that is a thing,
Yeah.
cool. But no, it's two things are often true all the time.
3, 4, 5 things.
Exactly.
The
Like
plate you have to juggle. Yeah.
you can understand someone's pain, suffering, and story and say you can do better.
Yes. Well, and I think that's hard too because a lot of us, when I talk to a lot of folks, especially in rural counties, a lot of us come through a lens where we were harmed by the drug abuse that was happening in our houses or in our family. And
Yep.
so we are coming at it through the lens of how we were victimized without understanding that they are two people. Does it excuse the harm in which was done to you? Absolutely
Nope.
not. Absolutely not. And also, when we're carrying our lenses through our life, because we all have our own perspectives, we need to remember that this is the lens I'm looking through before passing judgment, so that we can be like, oh, is this them, or is this a me thing? Because I've done that. I've checked a participant and been like, oh, you know what? That's a me thing. That was a me thing. That was like I got a little trigger there because of my own shit. I apologize. And then we kind of move on, right? And I
Yeah,
think that's what it means to be in right relationship with people. And that's hard.
right. It is a cornerstone of like, oh, hey, that's that's me. My
Yeah.
my bad.
Yeah.
Ooh, carry on. Sorry. Yep, that's all my shit. Cool. But you're right. Like being aware to know that, like, okay, I have interacted with this and it has caused me some pain or trauma doesn't mean this person is the person who's caused me pain,
Yes.
right? And recognizing, okay, sure, they may have caused other people in their life pain, but that's not you,
Yeah.
right? And the people in their lives have to hold them accountable for that. You can
Yes.
still help them
Yeah.
get to the other side of where they want to be and be understanding of like, yeah, like here we are. I
Yeah.
also feel like for me, I don't think people totally grasp like the concept of nobody starts out going with, I want to get high and have it ruin my life.
Yes. Yep. That second part, right? So I started doing drugs when I was very young. I was 12 years old, right? And I got some pretty heavy stuff pretty right away because I had ready access. And it was, I want to get high because I have pain. And because I didn't know how to deal with that pain, I was searching for the relief in
Yeah.
something else, whether it was a bad relationship, whether it
Hmm.
was really risky behavior as a teenager. I mean, I've stolen a lawn ornament or two, stolen some lawn ornaments and, may have filled a friend's garage with them because teenagers are
Teenagers
weird
do
individuals.
teenagers things
Yeah,
like
because
steal
I was
traffic
always,
cones and things,
yeah,
random weird things.
because why? Because I was searching for something to fill a hole that was empty.
Yeah.
Because I was like never taught how to self-regulate my own emotions. I never had a right relationship that showed me that not only did their existence matter, but mine existence mattered, and that we can walk alongside each other and we don't have to be in like a hierarchical type relationship where I dominate over you type thing.
Hmm.
And like, there's just all these things, and I wish people would understand that. Or even we have people that start doing drugs in their 60s. So they have
Yeah.
lived a whole life, something happens, and then boom, here we are 5 years
it
later.
it is an unhealthy coping skill, right? It's it works, and that's
It
the
does.
issue.
Yes.
Like
That's
it's
why drugs
pain,
have been, yeah.
right? We want to avoid pain and seek pleasure, and
Hmm.
that it works, and it works wonders, which is why people continue. The first time is fun. The
Yes.
30th time, we're doing it to avoid.
Yes.
And that's the piece that I don't think people grasp. Like by the 30th time, it's fucked. You're
Yeah.
addicted. And now, the 100th time, and now I'm just trying to use it to get out of bed.
Yeah. Well, it's just like if anyone has a cell phone, I challenge them to go into your cell phone right now and look at how many hours this week you have been on your phone. Because that is the exact same thing, except the risk to your body, your physical body, is less. Mentally, I don't know, because the news is and the social media is a horrid beast. So mentally, maybe it's comparable. I don't know. But it's just a less risky behavior, so it's more okay. It's the same with alcohol. We've legalized it because we understand that we can't, prohibit it. And
Yeah,
so
we've tried that. That didn't go well.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing with drugs too. I'm not saying let's make all drugs legal tomorrow because I think that's a horrible choice because we need so much more scaffolding and so much more support
Yeah.
before we would ever do anything like that. You can't just like rip off a Band-Aid on some, sutures because you're just gonna start gushing blood
Well,
everywhere.
for real.
Um, but I think that there's some real things that we can do with decriminalizing some stuff. I mean, hell, even in the state of Michigan, don't we still got folks in prison for weed charges? Like, get out of here.
I listen, that is okay. This blows my mind. In our state, you will face more time for a meth charge than child pornography.
That's fucked up. That's fucked up. I did not know that. I'm gonna have to look that up and start putting it in my slideshows because that's
That fucking blows my mind. Why? Why?
I mean, like it's always so when we're looking at laws, you always have to determine who is the recipient of the repercussions, and
Right.
that's why, right?
I
That's
mean,
why.
yes, but if I look, if one is
Yeah,
more dangerous,
yes,
knowing that fact blows my brain every time I consider it because
yeah,
I would like it to be the other way.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. And then too, like if we're talking about, especially like meth, so if we're talking about meth, then we really need to understand the we often see a lot more meth usage nowadays than opioids because
Mhm.
it is safer, as
Yeah.
in it's not as easy to have an overdose, right? And so we have a lot of people moving from that. But also like if the systems in which we are living in are not helping you, like if you don't have healthcare, if you don't have housing, if you don't have access to food, if you don't have your basic needs met, or even if you do have your basic needs met and you don't have mental health care, or you have, you know what I mean? There's just so many
Yeah.
different intersectional things. Whereas like child pornography, no, that is just there is no, it's just bad. Like it's no,
It's just bad.
nothing. It's just
This is
no,
bad.
it's
This
no
is
for me.
bad. This is
Yeah,
bad.
yeah,
It's just bad.
yeah. And anyone under 18 is a fucking child. Just gonna put that out there.
Agreed.
We're not talking about 14, no,
No,
child.
no.
Child.
By definition of the law, 18 is an adult, and
Yep.
I will agree with that forever.
Yes.
Um,
But
and ever.
off track, but great conversation.
Yeah. So yeah, that in itself is insane to me. But again, you're right by who gets impacted, correct. But you're right. The fact that we have people still sitting in jail with marijuana charges, the fact that they haven't been released and those have been expunged, crazy to me. We
Oh
legalized
yeah.
marijuana a hot minute ago. Like, what are we doing?
I don't know what we're waiting for because to me, we've already taken enough of these people's lives.
Correct. Like, let's just move along now. Let's just like let them go, move along. Let's just go.
I'm
We've
gonna
decided
grab.
we don't care at all about weed.
Oh, 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 might need a cough drop. Sorry.
That's okay. But as a state, we've decided we don't care. So let's move along.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
and I'm not, I guess if we're gonna say like, okay, like it's stipulations of committing another crime, that's different. But like, you're just in there for possession.
Yeah. Let
Like,
them go.
okay, come on now. At this point, why? So yeah, that one's crazy to me too. But like for real. So yeah, I am with you. And then we won't even get into it's a felony charge and how that impacts housing and
Oh
employment
yeah.
and services.
So even when they get out,
Hmm.
you better expunge it and then give them resources to be able to come out of that. Because if not, there's no restitution.
No,
There's no restorative anything.
yeah, because felonies impact housing, they impact employment and what services you have access to.
Yep.
So it's
Cool.
it's all of that stuff. So the one thing in our state it doesn't impact is your right to vote.
Which is great because a
I
lot of people don't
agree.
understand that. A lot of
No.
people think it's still, if you
Yeah,
have a felony, you can't vote, which I think we tell more people, tell more people.
right. So one thing, like, listen, you can vote if you have a felony. And so if you haven't registered to vote, do that.
Yes.
Tell your friends.
I mean,
Um,
I still think we should register people to vote that are in the prison systems, but
I don't know why they can't vote.
I mean, I've got everyone, the decisions made by people in power affect their
Well,
lives every single day.
correct. But yeah, literally every day.
Yeah.
Literally every day. But so, well, let me ask this question. I'm going to share the website link when I post this episode, and I know your donation link is in there. But
Yes.
what do you guys need most? Obviously outside of funds. What is it you're trying to do most? What do you
Yeah.
need most?
We always can take tents. We'll never be in short supply of tents, tarps. A lot of people don't think about tarps for our unhoused folks. We do take clothing donations. Um, we will have the mobile shower and laundry bus. So if someone has is an extreme couponer and has a bunch of, you know, shampoo, conditioner, laundry stuff, send it our way. We'd love to take it. We do a lot of mutual aid stuff. We really do want to cultivate a network of folks. So staying in contact with us by finding us on Facebook at PWL Lansing, or, we're going to have a volunteer platform up soon. We're also going to have a big fundraiser in August called Punk Olympics. It's going to be like an adult field day. And so if you loved Relay for Life and fundraising with a team of people and then showing up to do some cool stuff, we're not just going to make left turns. We're actually going to be doing a bunch of cool adult field day stuff. It's going to be like, nostalgic, best day of middle school, 7th grade. We get to skip the whole day and go and have fun on the field with our friends. That's what we get to do at Lugnut Stadium at the
That
end of
sounds fun.
August. Yep. So stay tuned for more information on that. But really, if you think of any kind of basic needs for people, we usually take it here. We have a drop-in center now. We'll only have technically 2. We have one in South Lansing. We also have one more closer to downtown at 809 Center Street. And we take really, really anything. Food, we can always take food. I think that is, we do some food rescue with Target on Fridays, but the need for food is ever prevalent. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here with me today. I appreciate the conversation. And for everybody listening, again, check the website, hit the donation button. Look, this is a good cause, everybody. So I appreciate you all helping out. And again, Kelsey, I appreciate your time today. I really do. I appreciate you being here with me.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. As usual, everybody, give us a like, give us a follow, share, spread the word, all the things. And thanks for hanging out today. Thanks for listening to another episode of Unwinding with Support Group. Follow us on Substack. Give us a like, a follow. Give us a comment. Tell us what you hated, what you like, what you want us to talk about next. Let everybody know where they can find us too. But thanks for hanging out with us once again.